Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today, I have my 5 takeaway series covering 5 Dynasty topics. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Let's go. So, the first topic, De'Von Achane's injury and the Dolphins backfield. A lot was going on in the Dolphins running back room this weekend. Achane, he didn't play in preseason week 2, but he has a very vague soft tissue lower body injury that will keep him out between days and weeks. It's extremely vague, like way too vague. So we know very little. But this is relevant because of what the other Dolphins running backs did this week. Now, Jaylen Wright played all the snaps until Ollie Gordon took over. But once again, Wright looked awful. Really bad. In 4 carries for 3 yards. It wasn't good. The second straight unimpressive performance for Wright. He had last week's goal line debacle as well, if you remember. I'm starting to think Wright is just not it. It doesn't look so good. He hasn't looked very good at all. And I'm a little nervous that Jaylen Wright is just not it. So Ollie Gordon looked pretty good. 10 carries for 50 yards, 2 catches for 9 yards. Again, preseason isn't everything. But I will say I'm nervous about how Wright looked compared to Gordon. Gordon, as you know, was great in 2023. And then in 2024, he had a down year, dropped his draft stock, went down to the 6th round, where he fell to Miami as a great value. Now, Alexander Mattison is gone. So that means that these are the 3 running backs, Achane, Gordon, and Wright. And Gordon and Wright are competing for RB2. And with Achane kind of hurting, that could be a relevant competition, right? So for me, what would I do here? So typically with these types of situations, I'm usually not paying the premium price for the player who looked good in the preseason over what they were worth before. So it is what it is with Gordon. If you had him, you may want to keep him, you may not. But with Wright, though, I think some people are going to see the Achane injury. They're going to say, well, Jaylen Wright will have the first opportunity. I still think Achane plays week 1. I wouldn't be surprised if Wright's hold on the RB2 position doesn't last very long. I think I might just take whatever I can get for Jaylen Wright. If it's a 26th third or anything like that, I might just take that because I just don't see it. I don't see it with Jaylen Wright. He's looked bad his entire time in the NFL. He looked bad last year, looks bad now. I think I'm good on Jaylen Wright. Now, the other big story, this one kind of came out of nowhere to me. Brian Robinson trade rumors. Now, he's apparently been shopped to other teams. Now, to a degree, this makes no sense to me. And we have to remember that most of the time when players are shopped to other teams, they don't get traded. The reason why this came out of nowhere is we did not hear that Brian Robinson was holding out for a contract or anything like that. The Commanders' depth chart is weak, and Robinson's not being paid much. And there are a lot of teams who could use him, but I don't think I'm going to speculate on this video as to teams that would be interested. I mean, the Bears, the Chiefs, have been talked about the Chargers if Najee's out. I mean, these are teams who could use him, but there are so many teams. We're not going to go through every possible destination because I'm not 100% sold on this. So Robinson's going to earn $3.6 million this year in the final year of his rookie deal. That's a value for him. He's not overpaid. So no team is giving a day 2 pick for him for 1 year of Brian Robinson, right? Nobody's going to pay a day 2 pick for that. They're not giving a day 2 pick also for the honor of extending Robinson early to a contract. Nobody's doing that. So at best, the Commanders will get a 4th rounder, a 2026 4th for Robinson. I don't even think they're getting that. I think it would be a 5th, but they're not getting more than a 4th, no matter what. So Robinson is worth probably more to the Commanders now than via trade, especially if they let him walk, they'd get a comp pick anyway. So it doesn't make sense. This whole thing makes no sense. That's kind of where I'm at here. Last year, Robinson was good. I mean, he had 187 carries, 799 yards, 4.3 yards a carry, 8 touchdowns, and 20 catches for 159 yards. Was he great? No. He averaged 13.4 carries and 57.1 yards a game. He delivered 2.3 yards after contact per attempt. So he did deliver. He did deliver on yards after contact, which is something we look at for a good running back. He delivered in that area. Why would the Commanders trade him and leave themselves with the depth chart they have? Jacory Croskey-Merritt, Austin Eckler, Jeremy McNichols, and Chris Rodriguez are the Commanders' other running backs. Okay, McNichols is a special teamer. He may make the team, he may not, but he's primarily a special teamer. Rodriguez, we've seen 2 years of him. He's a super deep backup. He's not going to help them. Eckler had multiple injuries last year. He's 30. He was efficient when he played, but can you trust him? I don't know. And then while I like Jacory Croskey-Merritt, he's a 7th round pick. He barely played in 2024. He had one real college season in 2023 outside the power conferences at New Mexico. So you're going to trust him to be the starter immediately on a contending team with a rookie quarterback, or not a rookie quarterback, but a quarterback on a rookie contract? It doesn't make sense unless one thing that does make sense is if the Commanders are planning to trade for some other running back as a separate move. I did hear Breece Hall bandied about as a suggestion. That would be interesting. They traded Brian Robinson to one team and then traded for Breece Hall. That would be interesting. But all of this to say, I'm not buying it that they're just going to sell Brian Robinson and go into the year with this room. I'm not buying that. So because I'm not buying that, I think now is the time to sell Jacory Croskey-Merritt. Why? The Commanders play a preseason game tonight. I don't know. Maybe you wait until after that. But I've seen deals where he goes for a second or more. How is he ever going to be worth more than that? I mean, how is that ever going to be a bad deal to take a second or even more for Jacory Croskey-Merritt? He's never done anything. Nothing. Zero. And what if this rumor is, like I said, false? Or what if it's what I said and they trade Robinson away and then trade for like Breece Hall? That would be even worse. So you won't get this value for Jacory Croskey-Merritt again. So I would just consider looking at the market and seeing, don't sell just to sell, but if you can get a ridiculous premium, I would move on and sell from a 7th round player who's done nothing, actually nothing to earn values, that he himself has not scored any fantasy points. He has not recorded a statistic in an NFL game yet. So if you can get an extreme value, we usually want to do that. Now, next up, Kaleb Johnson. Kaleb Johnson, this was another one where, and there's a lot of this on Twitter these days, where I feel like people saw what they wanted to see with Kaleb Johnson. I'm going to be honest with you and tell you it was a mixed bag. That's what actually happened, but people saw what they wanted to see. What happened is Jaylen Warren sat out with the starters while Kenneth Gainwell played the first 5 snaps of the game before Johnson entered. Now, that's not a massive concern. Johnson played the other 4 snaps with the first team on the second drive. So it's not like he didn't play with the starters at all. He did. He entered the game with the starters of this game. Obviously, the big players didn't play. But it's not good that we're debating the usage. We're talking about, well, Johnson was used on these plays, well, Gainwell was used on these plays. That's not good. The fact that we're talking about that is not a good sign. We should be talking about Johnson versus Warren, but that's not what we're discussing. Clear starters sat this game for the Steelers: Aaron Rodgers, Metcalf, Jonnu, and Pat Freiermuth. And it's interesting, Warren was included in that group. He was included with clear starters. So that's interesting. Now, Johnson was okay. I mean, he had 11 carries for 50 yards and a catch for 9 yards. So some people are saying, well, this was good. This should improve his value. Well, I do feel like he played well. He did show something. It came a lot against backups. The problem, though, seems to be the pass protection. And I worry that this is going to keep him off the field. I worry it's going to keep him off the field because he doesn't seem to have the trust of either Aaron Rodgers or the coaching staff. And that is a concern for me for early playing time. Now, for me, I want to be careful with Johnson. Don't overreact. Kaleb Johnson is not RJ Harvey, who's 2.5 years older and is 24.5 going into the NFL. If RJ Harvey doesn't hit immediately, then he was a bad pick. Kaleb Johnson is an early declare. We just turned 22. There's a little bit of time for Kaleb Johnson to take 5 weeks to develop and then be good. Now, at this point, if you had to start one Steelers running back week 1, it is Jaylen Warren. That will not change. My mind will not change. That is the reality. And I didn't love Kaleb Johnson during rookie season because I felt he was overpriced. I felt that I had a lot of concerns. I talked about one of my big recommendations was to take Emeka Egbuka instead of him. Obviously, that looks like a genius move in retrospect. However, if Johnson's value dips severely after a slow early start, I would consider buying low. He was not a bad prospect. He was an early declare. He was productive. Third round draft capital is not bad. He was not bad. He was just overvalued. You have to remember when you're listening to these videos, watching these videos, overvalued and bad are not the same thing. He was overvalued, but if the value dips and there is a buying window after a slow early start, I would be happy to do that with Kaleb Johnson. So that's kind of my takeaway from where we're at with Kaleb Johnson right now. Now, if you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. I'm offering a 50% discount off your first month at all tiers using the code TylerYT50. You can get all my rankings, access to Discord, write-ups, Patreon-only videos, direct message fantasy advice, and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos. Tiers begin at just $5 a month, $250 with the discount. If you want to know more about the Patreon, check out my Why You Should Join the Patreon videos on the channel. They're on the homepage under Patreon promos. Now, I have seen a lot of people sign up for the Patreon. This 50% off discount code is basically saying how much I believe in the product, that I'm willing to offer it 50% off for a whole month to get you to try it. I have covered every piece of news in the Patreon extensively and completely on the Patreon. You know, in a way that I'm not going to be able to do on the YouTube channel. These are videos. They come out when they come out. Not always going to be when the news drops. So I also have covered all of the preseason games with write-ups and stuff like that. So if you haven't tried being a patron yet, I highly suggest it. You will not regret signing up. I'm there every day. There's nothing like it. There are no other Patreons that are like mine. So I promise you won't regret signing up, and it'll be fun, actionable, helpful, and you're going to win a lot more Dynasty Leagues because of it. With that said, I'll get into my next topic. Now, Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, next topic. They rotated with the starters. I do think this week was very representative of what we're going to see. Bigsby played 9 snaps for the starters. Etienne played 8. Both had a target. Etienne had 1 more carry. So they rotated. They split the snaps relatively evenly. Again, I think very representative of what we're going to see. Both running backs exited with the starters. When Trevor Lawrence left, we didn't see any more Bigsby. We didn't see any more Etienne. But then Bhayshul Tuten came in. Tuten did not play with the starters. He only played with the backups. He's not part of the week 1 running back rotation. That could change. I'm not saying that Tuten can't earn more work later, but to begin, Etienne and Bigsby will rotate while Tuten is not relevant. That's what's happening at the start. Now, for me, this is a pretty easy one. I'd be happy to use this opportunity to sell both Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. Why? I looked on Twitter or X, and I feel like people saw what they wanted to see. Those who were in the tank for Bigsby, I saw people saying, well, this game proves that Tank Bigsby is the guy. He had a catch. Wow, 1 catch. Oh, that's so good. Those who were in the tank for Etienne, they were saying, well, he looked wonderful. Oh, wow, he had 3 good carries. That means he's the guy. He's the starter. Wonderful. These people have like no brain. They were in the tank. They planted a flag. Oh, no, I planted a flag for one of these guys. So now whatever I see, no matter what it is, means that I'm right. Not very smart people there. It's obvious what's going on here. They split drives last week. This week, a 50-50 split. This is a split backfield. Accept it. For me, I don't like either guy. It's split almost exactly 50-50. I don't even see the major contingent upside because if one of them goes down, I do think Tuten would then get involved, not have the other guy get 100% of the work. We've seen that they don't want to use either of these guys in a workhorse role. So I don't want these guys. I'm happy to sell both of them to someone who's following these delusional people on Twitter who are saying ridiculous things and get rid of them because I don't think these are long-term dynasty assets, either one. And this is your opportunity because people are saying things and people saying things causes sell windows. So that's kind of my take here. Now, my final topic, and this is more just an observation. Jaxson Dart has looked good. He has. Now, he's been the second quarterback to play in both preseason games, behind Russell Wilson, but ahead of Jameis Winston. Okay, right now Dart is their quarterback too. To be honest, I don't really understand what the Giants' plan is. Are they going to keep all three quarterbacks all season? That doesn't make sense. They're not winning anything this year. What's the point of that? I kind of feel like their plan is to keep Russell Wilson at the beginning and then maybe trade him at the trade deadline. And then go Dart the rest of the year with Winston as his backup. I don't know. I am a Giants fan, but they're, not very clear about what they want to do. With that said, Dart has been pretty good. He completed 74.3% of his passes with 8.3 yards per attempt in the 2 preseason games played. Now, it's against backups. Preseason stats aren't everything. But let's look at some of the quarterbacks we've seen. When we look at what Cam Ward has done, let's say, does Cam Ward look like he belongs in the NFL or does not belong in the NFL? He looks like he belongs in the NFL. Jaxson Dart, does he look like he belongs? I'd say so. I'd say he looks like, okay, this could be a quarterback who belongs here. He belongs on an NFL field. He doesn't look overmatched. He doesn't look out of place. He doesn't look like he can't run an offense. Brian Daboll did a thing where he ran Jaxson Dart in for one random play. He adapted to that. So I think he belongs. Whereas like an example of someone who doesn't belong is Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck does not belong on an NFL field. Dylan Gabriel did not belong there, right? He didn't belong. He didn't look like he belonged in the NFL. At least they're not ready. Whereas Jaxson Dart looked like if you played him in a game this week, a real game, would he be good? I don't know about that. But he wouldn't be horrible or just totally overmatched, totally incapable of playing. So that's what I've seen from Jaxson Dart in the preseason, which is interesting. Now, for me, Jaxson Dart he always was kind of a weird valuation in Superflex. Would I take a 26 first for him? Probably, but that's neither here nor there. I believe the Giants when they say Russell Wilson will start week 1. When he does, or when he's named the official starter, I think that's a good window to sell Russell Wilson for whatever you can get. I don't think there's any dynasty value to Russell Wilson. And I would use this opportunity to get away from him because I think that this is feeling a little bit like the 2024 Patriots to me, except with a better offense. The veteran opens the year. In that case, it was Jacoby Brissett. But after a few games, you see enough from the rookie, Dart in this case, in practice, which we've seen also in preseason, that you got to put him in. You got to see what you have. And I think this is the last sell window for Russell Wilson in Dynasty Superflex, and I would take it. So that's kind of my takeaway from this whole situation with the Giants. So I've got 3 pieces of NFL news that kind of came up today. I'm going to cover all of them really quickly. If you want more detail on these, I'm going to talk about it in the Patreon, so you can sign up there. First one, Matthew Stafford returned to practice. Practice today with the Rams. Seems like he was doing some individual drills. He looked, okay, I guess. I lean that he plays week 1. However, I think his back issue is chronic. We know about the epidural. We know this is not just completely gone. I do think there's some elevated risk. I do think he could miss some time in season because I always talk about, I don't believe in injury prone, but I do believe in currently injured. I do believe that Matthew Stafford, for me, is now currently injured forever. I don't think this is going away. So you have to price in some risk. Now, next piece of news, Joe Flacco named the Browns week 1 starting quarterback. This is zero surprise. It's been very obvious for about 2 months that this is what's going to happen. And honestly, there's nothing else to say. He'll be the week 1 starting quarterback, start until he fails. And then, it's probably the most capable quarterback on the team right now, helps the weapons, but this was already priced in, not making any rankings changes or any other changes because of this, but it did happen today. And then the last piece of news that just came across my timeline was that Quinshon Judkins may not sign with the Browns immediately. they may not be able to reach a deal. Remember, he hasn't signed his rookie contract until the NFL investigation concludes. I covered Judkins in extensive depth on Friday's video. I told you to sell him. I said that he was ridiculously overvalued. I said that you should sell him. And I hope you listened because the prices were insane. 26 first plus for Judkins. They were insane prices. People told me, well, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. And the fact that he hadn't signed his rookie deal was a factor for me because he's been missing time and he hadn't signed it yet. Now there could be a further delay. I don't want to hear about a further delay with a running back. Running backs are replaceable. So for me, I hope you listened. I hope you sold him already. I'd still consider selling him if people are buying. I'm not buying. I have no interest. And I would love to just move on from him if I had any shares. But again, I even said this in the Patreon today. If you still have Judkins shares, it's on you. I told you to sell them 100 times. So it is what it is at this point with Quinshon Judkins. Got a few Patreon questions and then we'll wrap up the show. How many good or bad performances in a row does it take before we believe that's their new normal? Is that number different for different kinds of players? Yeah, this is so situation dependent. So how good is the performance dependent? So dependent on so many things that there's not a number. There's not a number. With a quarterback, I tend to need a larger sample size. But there are times like with Patrick Mahomes that it took like 3 performances and he was already a top 3 dynasty quarterback. So this is so situation dependent. And I don't lock myself into this type of thinking. I analyze every player differently. I analyze every player. Sometimes I do a team level analysis, but I don't start with, well, I need this many performances in a row. That's not how you think about it. I would think about evaluating the player, evaluating the team first, and then kind of seeing what you think. But the answer to this question is that there is no answer. And if you lock yourself into a way of thinking, you're probably holding yourself back. It's actually going to hurt you. Best times of the year to buy players/picks. Best move post startup. And then this was also kind of similar for a team that's competing or on the verge of doing so. When are you buying vets to shore up your lineup? Okay, so the best time of the year to buy players is with the rookie picks during the rookie draft. There are players that are available at a value at that point that are not available at a value any other time. So that's the best time to buy players. That's the best time to buy vets to shore up your lineup. And I know it sucks. If you're joining the Patreon in August and I'm telling you, well, the best time to buy the players was in May, I get that that's not really helping you, right? But that's the reality, is that that was the best time. You know, it is what it is. That's the advice that I'm giving. It's harder to buy veterans now. That's the reality. Their prices have increased because people take on a redraft mindset. In May, people are in rookie fever. Veterans come at a discounted cost. So that's the easy part of the questions here. To buy picks, sometimes in season you can buy picks because people are focused on redraft. They're giving their picks. Oh, I need a starter. Oh, I'm going to send the second away. That's sometimes a way you can buy picks. Buying picks in the future, although not this year because the 27 picks are overvalued. But usually buying the year ahead picks is a way to do it in terms of timing. And the last part, best moves post-startup. Post-startup, I find often is a very static time because people got the players they wanted already. I would look at waivers if you have extra roster space. Look at trades that you kind of tried to do during the startup and maybe didn't execute. Circle back if you learned anything about who your league mates like or did not like from talking to them during the startup. Maybe that'll help. But yeah, I generally do find that right after the startup is one of the quietest times in a dynasty league. So yeah, that's kind of my take on that. Who are some tight ends you like at their current cost? Well, I would say I kind of like Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren, I think, is going to be really good. So I kind of like Tyler Warren. Tucker Kraft, I don't mind. I think Tucker Kraft has some talent upside. I kind of like Mason Taylor. I think Mason Taylor was pretty good prospect. Those are a few. Typically, I often end up fading tight end, especially if it's not a tight end premium. So, most of the other tight ends I like are closer to the bottom of the draft board. Then the last question, is it advantageous to have a top 5 stud quarterback and punt your QB2? No. In Superflex, no. Versus having 2 solid starters. I think the idea of punting the QB2, we know I don't like that. We know I like building around quarterback. Now, I think the more interesting part is I like to have 3 starting quarterbacks in Superflex most of the time. I think the more interesting part is actually the first part of the question. Is it advantageous to have a top 5 stud quarterback? Or can you make do with just solid starters and, not using the capital it takes to get like a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? I do think oftentimes you're better off trading down from those spots and getting a haul of value. So it would be rare for me in a startup to end up with a Josh Allen or, Lamar Jackson, but it can be an advantage. A lot of it also depends on the number of lineup spots. In a Superflex league, let's say it's a 12-team Superflex with 12 starters, then there are 10 starters that are not quarterback. You probably may be able to overcome that stud. Whereas if it's a start 8 and there's only 6 starters that aren't quarterbacks, probably that stud quarterback's going to carry the day. So there are little differences like that can affect my strategy. And again, I cover all of that in the Patreon, but it's an interesting question. And how I evaluate the quarterback position in Superflex is a lot of what I spend my Patreon time on. I'm not going to lie, because it's one of the most common questions. And there's so much to talk about Dynasty quarterback strategy in Superflex leagues. Now, if you liked the video, make sure to support the channel by subscribing. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best Dynasty football advice every day of Dynasty football advice as well, it's available on the Patreon. Dynasty, all content year-round. Redraft starts it, also on there. 50% discount at all tiers using the code TylerYT50. You can click on the link in the top right corner, patreon.com/fantasy advice to sign up. Every sign up helps support my independent content. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.